The Body and Disfig, Orchards of a Fluid Heaven album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this collaborative project from Disfig as well as The Body. Disfig, if you don't know, aka Miss Felicia Chen. I've been meaning to chat about her for a while now because in the growing space that is the gnarlier side of ambient and electronic and post-industrial, she's been doing some very interesting things over the last few years. Like her excerpt from Atypical Brain Damage EP that dropped years ago, which was just one long, very droning piece. Actually, really impressed me at the time. I was super into the works of the Haxon Cloak and Prurient and more. And Felicia's sort of interpretation of these sounds were really fascinating. There were very quiet, ambient lows, but also really animalistic, in your face, very noisy highs. I indeed wanted to hear more from her, and I was impressed with her 2019 full-length debut, Purge. This took the sounds of her debut EP, but, brought in a few more vocals, not too many where it was overpowering, and just shined up her sound to be even more raw and animalistic. I honestly wish it was a little bit longer, but I was very impressed with what she was doing. Now, The Body, on the other hand, are an act that I am very much familiar with and have talked about at great lengths on this channel. They are an experimental, noisy, post-industrial duo out of Providence. And as far as their solo work has gone, I've been very middle of the road on it ever since they made their debut years ago. I've certainly liked some projects here and there, but overall, I've worried that a lot of their solo stuff is kind of inconsistent. But if you're tuning into this video, then you know that the hype here is about their collaborations. Their work with the Haxon Cloak, both albums with Full of Hell that they did, OAA, Big Brave, Thou, Uniform, and more have all been really interesting in their own right. Go back and take a look at some of my reviews. If The Body is attached with another act, most likely I really enjoyed what they were putting together. So I'm always kind of curious to see where their collaborations go, and I was very interested to hear what they would do with Disfig, and man, leave it to these two artists because, I genuinely think that this is a real feast for anybody who's into the more explosive and abrasive side of industrial and experimental music. This album starts off with Eternal Hours, and we start off with noise, glorious noise, and lots of it. I mean, we all knew we were getting a very loud, abrasive start, but Disfig's vocals on this track really do bring it together nicely. It's gnarly, and it's got this weird sense of urgency within these twisted synths that I really love. But it's also got like a really sick patience to it. With each crashing riff that comes in, I feel like this track's gonna explode. And it never does, but it really lingers in this very anxiety-induced atmosphere. Crashing sound defense, noisy synths, and Disfig's vocals, which just get more and more tortured as this track goes on. Meditative as well. I mean, she comes off here like some really gnarly prophet of death just floating all above this harsh noise. A+. Spoiler alert though, this album is not going to be for everyone. This is a very niche record. To Walk a Higher Path is also really good. I hope you enjoy power electronics because there's quite a few of them here. And honestly, it's just getting more hellish and more twisted and more in your face. And I love how the vocal samples, as they come on, just keep getting more and more unsettling and unnerving. They just don't sound accurate. Throw in some hazy waves of gargantuan synths and Disfig just kind of floating over it all. It's pretty wild. It's disgusting, but it's also really mesmerizing and hypnotic and ethereal. And I think that's what makes this really impressive, just the replay value here. You never really know what you're gonna hear. Yeah, it's a really awesome single. Also, really love Dissent, Shame. This track is just so monolithic, and this album is getting truly more and more harrowing at the second. The synths are colossal, and Felicia, her vocals on this track just sound so haunted, so abnormal, and yes, that's a very good thing. It's a truly unforgiving track with absolutely no hope in sight. Don't even think about it. Also, I really love the very subtle beat that pops in throughout this tune. It just kind of gives me just a little progression, just a little bit. And it's enough to just mix this track up a little bit. Honestly, I think this is just a really powerful single overall. It sums up this entire record in one just hellish blast. It's really thrilling. Also, Orchards of a Futile Heaven as well. Trust me, things have not gotten any brighter on this track. This is an all-out assault from the word go. Shrill screams, twisted production, and Disfig at this point just sounds demonic, but oddly enchanting as well. It's a strangely commanding performance overall from both artists. It just keeps growing and feeling like an out-of-body experience in these more experimental genres, like good on them. But the sort of off-kilter, warm rhythms that float in the later moments of this track, dare I say, it makes this album a little more inviting. Even though this 6-minute plus track is not for the faint of heart, nor is this album. Now, I will say this, Holy Lance was released as a single, and I'm still not really feeling it that much. It's one of the more vast and visual tracks here, and the ambiance of it is really impressive. But this is the least collaborative sounding track here. This sounds like a solo Disfig or The Body track that was remixed by the other. The result is just really average and doesn't seem to have the same chemistry, even though it has, a nasty moment or two. It just doesn't progress, and it's just very average, especially with how good the rest of this is. I genuinely think this is a treasure trove for anybody who likes modern experimental music. Coils of Ka is really interesting. I mean, you can cut the tension here with a knife, and when these gigantic synths pummel their way in, it is thrilling. It is so suffocating. I mean, you know just who the hell we are dealing with from the word go. By the way, this is a plus 9-minute track. And it's paced really well. I love the screams that we get from Disfig behind the plodding drums and synths. And it's constantly building throughout this 9-minute plus track. It's just instrumental being added after another instrumental being added, all with Disfig just sounding so hellish. The two of them have such an interesting collaborative sound. I just sat here with the 9 minutes going by with a big smile on my face, but that says more about me. Which, by the way, this 9-minute track breezes by, and Back to the Water as a finale is just a great ending. I mean, this is the most doom-impending track here. It's also the most pensive track here, and if you are a fan of either one of those artists, you know how big a statement this is. It's not the noisiest track here. The devil is most certainly in the details. I mean, by this point, Felicia's vocals, Disfig's vocals, have become so immaculate, very lingua ignota. And behind these gnarly synths and bustling, noisy production, it makes for just a fantastic finale. No, this album is very clearly not going to be for everyone, but if you are into post-industrial and experimental and just power electronics and sheer noise, this, I think, is a treasure trove. These two artists have so much chemistry, and these are two artists that are known for having a lot of chemistry with other artists, but I do think they really knock it out of the park here. This is very consistent, and for a noisy, hellish, truly twisted album, I think it actually goes by pretty quickly, and while it is, definitely abrasive ear candy, there's a lot of really interesting ideas on this album. So much so, I'm feeling a very strong 8 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.